Hi, I'm Mitchell Blaine, Executive Vice President with JLL, based here in Kitchener, Ontario, servicing our Southwestern Ontario markets from Windsor to Guelph, Ontario. JLL is a full-service commercial real estate company, including brokerage, property management, asset management, and construction services, with offices based across the country in every major market. What really sets Southwestern Ontario apart from many of the markets in Canada, North America, and globally is really our access to the highest concentration of post-secondary education institutions in our universities and colleges, which produce an incredibly talented and innovative labor pool. But that combined with an affordable cost of living, affordable cost of land relative to even Toronto, which is an hour away, but still having access to these neighboring communities and markets, including the US, really makes the Southwestern Ontario market a compelling value proposition for both investors and operating companies alike. Growth in Southwestern Ontario is only going to be enhanced over the long term. The combination of policies and the area identified as a strong place of growth within all of Canada, combined with the infrastructure investments of the past bearing fruit, but also future planned investments in infrastructure, are going to continue to propel the region forward while still maintaining access to major markets nearby, including Toronto and the US border. The current business climate remains quite volatile. Trade, tariffs, manufacturing, all the headlines pose challenges to any company, let alone based in Southwestern Ontario or abroad. Those challenges do not undermine what we see as opportunity in Southwestern Ontario long-term. The long-term thesis for a strong, educated population, which will produce an incredibly skilled labor pool, really promotes a strong investment thesis long-term, regardless of what short-term volatility we may see in today's market. Occupiers are managing the current economic environment and balancing long-term with flexibility, largely based on their company's needs. Office occupiers are starting to take a longer-term lens on their lease obligations in the space that will help their employees to thrive, whereas industrial occupiers in the current trade environment are taking a more flexible nature. We are seeing turnkey spaces really see a lot of activity as it minimizes the cost that tenants and occupiers need to put into a space. But no doubt, depending upon what company you are, what type of space you occupy, will determine whether you're looking long-term or short-term. Not only are we closely watching the needs of the occupiers and tenants that fill spaces throughout our community, we're closely watching the traditional economic metrics of interest rates, inflation, and policy and trade that might influence short-term volatility. However, we still remain confident that the long-term thesis for Southwestern Ontario is strong. Certain segments of the real estate market are experiencing challenge with defaults and pressures around credit and debt. However, the bulk of real estate remains quite secure. Our stable banking industry in Canada, as well as reasonable pricing in Southwestern Ontario, has really mitigated the amount of distress we've seen in the market. Real estate as a whole has seen a level of correction, some areas more than others, but we believe this is truly a generational opportunity, where if you can have a long-term thesis and vision for the future, this may be an entry point that may not be replicated for quite some time. And this is truly a moment of opportunity if you can develop a strong thesis and execute based on a long-term plan.